Unity of Houston is an inclusive church where we seek to understand and live the teachings of Jesus and other spiritual masters. At Unity, we welcome all people from all spiritual paths and every walk of life. We celebrate the diversity of our city and of our world, and we teach love, tolerance, and oneness, seeking to live in harmony with open minds and open hearts.
Wherever you are in your spiritual path, you are always welcome at Unity. Join us and discover that the life of your dreams is already within you.
There's something about the new year which is always an invitation to take stock. How am I doing? What do I want to change? I don't do New Year's resolutions, but I do New Year's reflections. I love our burning bowl ceremony we had on Tuesday. There are some things that were clear. We know, I don't want that anymore, right? How many of you were there for burning bowl? Ask them about that. Wasn't that great? Just to kind of, I love seeing it just, it just goes away. And it's a beautiful, powerful ceremony of recognizing that we need to change. If we want life to change, there's a thing I learned in 12 steps. Nothing changes, nothing changes. That if you want life to change, you must be willing to change. So this month, we are doing a wonderful study. Karen and I are doing a deep dive on Sunday mornings in this wonderful book called Spiritual Economics by Eric Butterworth. How many of you have read Spiritual Economics? Quite a few. This is a Unity classic. We have it available in the bookstore. It's online. It's an incredible book. And before we dive too deeply into it, I want to give some context for it. Unity and the New Thought movement were really the place where prosperity spiritual teachings began. I don't know if you knew that. Many other churches now do teach this prosperity teaching, but it began in the New Thought movement because we understand that we are one with the power and the source that is God. One source, one life, all good flows from God. We are one with it. We are expressions of it. So therefore, the qualities of God exist in us. And one of those qualities is abundance. And so this is a powerful spiritual teaching, and it can transform your life in every way. I have a slight caution I want to bring to this, is that if we're not careful, this beautiful spiritual teaching can become co-opted by materialism, where I'm just going to use spiritual principle to get more stuff. I don't know about you, but I don't need more stuff. I'm ready to release more stuff, but I do want more abundance. And what it really means is freedom. Freedom from lack or want. Where I really have all my needs are met. Everything is just sufficient in life. So we can use it to become acquiring and acquisitive, and what that causes is that we get stuff and we can use it, we can get stuff and we want more stuff and more stuff and more stuff, and that's a trap. So before we go any deeper into prosperity teaching, I want to say that. Don't follow the trap into materialism. It will not satisfy. It will not bring you the freedom that you think it will. So, having said that, all of us are being invited into a more abundant life. And not just in finances, but in all areas. There are 4 areas we typically look at the way we express in our physical life, in our human life here in America in the 21st century on planet Earth. We look at our health and our body. Would you like to experience more abundant life in your health, in your body? And this is those who are struggling with some, or working with some medical condition and some healing challenge there, or those of us who would simply like to be kinder to our body and get more exercise, eat better food, all of those things. That's one of the ways we can demonstrate abundance and freedom. The second would be our relationships. How many of y'all know that people cause trouble? Any of you know that? And as far as I can see, we still need them. We need people. And so we learn how we can bring spiritual principles and have more abundance, more abundant, loving, supportive relationships in our life. And we can heal our part of the relationship. And this is all relationships. Some of you may be ready to now call in a partnership, and it's time. It's time. And using these principles of spiritual truth, we can open that space, clear any old false beliefs, ideas that are inside our mind, that we can begin to attract the relationships that truly fit the pattern of perfection in our soul. The third would be our vocation, the way we give. And for some of us, this is our job. For some of us, it's our service work. But it's the way that we use our gifts, our talents, our time to support the whole, the things that we do in the world. And how many of us would like to experience a greater sense of fulfillment there? Like what I'm bringing matters. It helps people. That's what we're talking about here. And then fourth would be our financial good. And I want to tell you, too, that money equals energy. That's really what it's about. It is the system that we have agreed collectively that this is how we use portable energy to go where I want to do, to get what I need, to do what's necessary in this human lifetime. We need it. And we don't want to be constricted. We don't want to feel lack. We want to feel supported and energized by life in the realm of our finances. Can I get an amen? All right, so we clear about that? That's what we're talking about. And the other thing I want to tell you about money and spirituality, because here's the temptation. We're so, we can get so repulsed by that materialistic, acquisitive, more thing that we're like, well, I don't want God anywhere near my money. That's not going to help. You don't want that. What we want to do is, I think of it as a spiritual sandbox. That in my finances, it's a beautiful way that I can test and try spiritual principle and practice. A friend of mine who's a teacher, Alexis Rice, she spoke to our Sunday school class with adults a few weeks ago in Dallas. She said this to me years and years ago. She said, the body is dense. If you want to make a change in your body using spiritual terms, it's going to take some time. I know that's not always true, but in my experience, that has been true. It takes time. She said, money is fast. You begin to change the way you're thinking and the way you're acting and choosing around money, and you will see things turn around so quickly. And I have experienced that. So it's a beautiful way for us to begin to experiment with living the truth into all areas of our life. And what we're really trying to do is just wake up to the truth of who we are. You are a son and a daughter, son or a daughter, maybe a son and a daughter, I don't know, of the Most High. You are here to express life fully. That's the truth, but we forget. Do you remember the story that Jesus taught about the prodigal son? The young man who got his inheritance from his father and went off and squandered in the world and had this moment of clarity that came in his suffering, and he recognized that he belonged back home with the Father. That is the spiritual journey of awakening for all people in all areas of life. We go from an unconscious oneness. You can't be anything but one with God. That's what our name Unity means. That you can't change that. You can choose anything but that. You cannot choose yourself outside of God. Can you choose yourself outside of the experience of God? And that's what we do. We choose from our false belief and false identity, and we leave home. The home of conscious connection, or even unconscious connection. We go out and try to get our needs met out in the world. It doesn't work. We become desperate, and we remember, and we come back home. So the spiritual path is from unconscious oneness through apparent separation to conscious oneness. And that's what we're seeking to do this month as we seek to live the prosperity principles taught by Eric Butterworth and by many, many great teachers. The title of this week, it's actually chapter 2 is the title. It says, Your Fortune Begins With You. And what we're really talking about today is consciousness. It's what you know about your life, about the universe. Two people were up for a job in a corporation. One was within the company, one was an outside person, and it was a really good job. And they'd come to those final two candidates, and the vice president called them both in and had them take an exam. 20 questions that would test their knowledge on what's needed in this position. Left them alone in the room, came back a little later, took the exams, and left the candidates there. A moment later, the vice president came back and said to the person who was inside the company, Joe, come into my office. And they said, well, we've decided to go with the outside candidate. And Joe said, why? I thought I've done a good job here. Did I mess up the exam? He said, no, you got 19 of 20 on the exam, just as the other candidate did. He said, well, if we both got the same score, why wouldn't you give it to me? Because I'm the one here. Tell me what's going on. And the vice president said, well, it's not so much the ones you got right, it's the one you got wrong. And the other candidate also got the same one wrong. On number 7, she wrote, I don't know. And on number 7, you wrote, I don't know either. If you didn't get it, why are they laughing? He was cheating on the exam. And you can't actually cheat consciousness. You can pretend you know something you don't know, but unless you demonstrate it fully in your life, you don't really know it. It's what Mary Morrissey calls, I know about it. And if you know about spiritual principle, but you're not living it, you don't truly have the consciousness of it. I normally don't read like long passages from books, but man, do I love me some Butterworth. And so just open your heart to this. In the first service, I said it's almost like Eric Butterworth is still saying these words, transmitting these truths through these words across time. So just open your heart and your mind and listen to this. You live in a world of your consciousness, which is the sum total of the thoughts of your mind. And you can control what goes on in your mind. That is not to say that it's easy, but to establish that it is possible. There is a great idea that you will encounter again and again on your quest. You are a living magnet, constantly drawing to you the things, the people, and the circumstances which are in accord with your thoughts. In other words, you are where you are in experience, in relationships, even in financial conditions, because of what you are, which is where you are in consciousness. Now, this is not an easy teaching. You may want to reject it and put this book aside. However, if you are willing to accept full responsibility for your own life, then even as your level of thought has put you where you are, or at least contributed to it, so by a change of consciousness, you can change the experiences of your life. Isn't that good? If you know different, you are different. I remember when I first got that teaching, I did want to throw the book aside and run screaming from the church because my life did not work, and I really, really wanted it to be somebody else's fault. I swear, I've said this before, but if I could just figure out the way to write the book, change their thinking, change your life, it would sell 1 million copies. But again and again, I'm invited into the awareness that all change must come in my own awareness, in my own mind, in my own heart, in my own life. I have to be the one to change. Sometimes I remember, I shared the story about my friend Christy, her analogy about going to dysfunctional relationships seeking support, and she said it's like going to the hardware store looking for a loaf of bread. She also told me one time, she's like, sometimes I get really resentful that I have to be the most sober person in the room. I don't always want to be so responsible. Sometimes I would really just like to let other people be my problem. And I can certainly collect evidence that that is true. If I want to, I can find so many resentments, so many reasons why he's doing that to make me feel this way. It's never true. It's never true. Now, I'm not one of those who teaches that you have created every atom and molecule in the universe you inhabit. I don't believe so. This is a shared collective experience, and so all of us are co-creating with God all the time. So things do arise in the world, and I didn't necessarily make that happen, but my response to it is on me. And so thought and action are forever linked. And if I'm going to be different, I think different, I speak different, I choose different, I act differently. This is what we are called to do, to move our consciousness. How do we shift our consciousness? We find ways, practices of lining ourselves back up with the truth of who we are. There are 4 main practices we teach here in Unity in the New Thought Movement. They are meditation. You already experienced that. If you're new, that's maybe your first introduction to meditation. A gentle calming of the mind to release attachment into the world of condition. Prayer. Most religions teach some form of prayer, and we practice many types of prayer, but there's one particular one that we teach called affirmative prayer, where I'm not asking some distant God to be nice to me or not, to give me something I can use or not. We don't ask a distant God, give us something we don't have. What instead we do is we recognize we've already been given the universe. It's already within us. I recognize the truth within me. I speak from the place of oneness with God and call it into being. The first time somebody prayed that way over me, I got real excited. My old Pentecostal roots started showing a little bit. I could feel the power. It was a prayer of faith, a prayer, and I recognized that what was being said was true. It's a powerful practice. So join Reverend Karen this Thursday in that class if you want to know more about that. Pray with one of our prayer partners at the end of the service if you want to know more about that. And then we have affirmation and denial. Denial is where we release any attachment to that which is not true, but we've been holding on to it like it was. I deny that that has any validity in my life. And then I affirm what is true. We use affirmations here all the time. And we want to find the words that make our souls sing a little bit, right? Words that go, yeah, that's what I'm talking about. And when we find those words, we speak them as though they are already complete in manifestation, even though right now we're speaking it in consciousness. I have a meditation. What is it called? Affirmation. I have an affirmation I'd like to share with you now. There's a daily spiritual guide that I've been using for years and years, written by Ernest Holmes and Raymond Charles Barker, called Richer Living. This was from January 4th. This is yesterday. Let's read it together. I know that my spirit is free from all limitation, that my physical body and my objective affairs reflect and manifest the perfection which I feel, the wholeness which I am certain of, and the prosperity which rightfully belongs to me. That makes my soul sing a little bit. There's something about the consciousness of Raymond Charles Barker and Ernest Holmes when they selected these words to speak to some spiritual truth that was true for them. They knew it. They lived it. And I could feel it. And it sort of, there's a thing that if you set a guitar next to a piano and you play G on the piano, the guitar, the G string will vibrate. Did you know that? It's called resonance. And if you feel a little resonance from this statement, it's because part of you knows this is true. You know it. Maybe not to the degree and the depth that Raymond Charles Barker and Ernest Holmes knew it, but you know it. And if we can begin to lean into that knowing, then these affirmations begin to shift our consciousness, our awareness. Yeah, get your phone out and take a picture of it if you want. We can throw it up on social media later. But let's read it again, shall we? Feeling that resonance. I know that my spirit is free from all limitation, that my physical body and my objective affairs reflect and manifest the perfection which I feel, the wholeness which I am certain of, and the prosperity which rightfully belongs to me. That rightfully belongs to me. Emma Curtis Hopkins was a teacher of both of those guys and also of the Fillmores, and she had an affirmation that says, there is good for me in the universe and I ought to have it. Isn't that great? That's an affirmation. There is good for me in this universe. I ought to have it. There is a good that is specifically made for the shape of your own soul. You are meant to experience life abundantly, fully, in a way that is just right for you. I like a 3-point sermon. I'm heading to point 3. The first point, I wanted to set some context around our prosperity teaching. The second point, I want to talk about consciousness is cause. I've titled this third point, We Don't Know Who We Are. We don't know who we are. And if I look back on my life, all of the problems and the suffering that I have had could be traced back to that. I don't know who I am. I know more now than I knew then, but I still don't know all of the depth of my wonder and amazing creation that I am in God. I don't know it all yet. And this is our work, is to come to some memory, to come home as the prodigal did to our oneness with God. These practices, these disciplines that we use will help get us there. Discipline is a beautiful word. It's an invitation to love. We think about it like a disciple. Jesus' disciples, don't you think they loved him? Why else would they have dropped all they had and followed him in his journey? It was love. And these practices of affirmation, denial, prayer, and meditation, they are a call to love. Love yourself. That's why you do these things. They help us remember who we are. There's a story in the New Testament, in the Gospel of Luke, chapter 19, verse 1 through 9. It's an unusual story. Luke is a little unusual from the other Gospels because this was really the first outward marketing piece for Christianity. It was, Luke is really aimed, the audience was those who are non-Jewish. And so Luke's stories often reflect a broader, more universal spiritual teaching of Jesus. But this story, the Jewishness of Jesus, is important. It's kind of unusual. Jesus was traveling in the Holy Land at that time, and he came to the city of Jericho. And in the city of Jericho, there was a tax collector, a publican, named Zacchaeus. Zacchaeus was not a popular man in Jericho. The way that the Roman Empire worked was that they would appoint local people from within the culture there to collect the taxes. So, none of us likes taxes, right? But, they're necessary to society. But this system, while it was brutal, it served the Roman Empire for a long time. Because here are two things they did. They didn't have to be the outside bad guy. It was somebody we knew. Zacchaeus down the street was getting the taxes. He spoke our language. He knew how much money we had. He watched our crops, all of that. And they also incentivized the tax collectors by letting them take a little off the top. Or a lot. Whatever they could get by with, whatever the market would bear. Zacchaeus had taken advantage of this situation, and he was hated, despised by the people of Jericho. He also was a man of short stature, as the Bible says. Now, we have racism, we have misogyny, we have all the sexism, all the things we do. There's also heightism. That if you are vertically challenged, you may not get all the privileges society offers, and Zacchaeus was one of those people. Zacchaeus knew that Jesus was coming to town. He'd been hearing about this teacher and the miracles and the radical teaching. And he was curious. Never underestimate the power of your curiosity. So he came out of his house out into public, and he wanted to see Jesus, and said that there was a sycamore tree where he could rise above the crowd and see what could be seen. How many of you knew that song from Sunday school? Zacchaeus was a wee little man was he. That's all we're going to sing of that. Climbed up in the sycamore tree to see what he could see. The metaphysics here are really important. That if you sense there is a greater life for you, you will be curious about what it might look like. And you will find a way to rise above your current conditions, to see what you can see about it. Let that curiosity guide you. There's an inventive nature in it. I'm going to try something I haven't. I'm going to climb a tree, see what happens. Now, the next thing that happens in the story is that as Jesus is walking along the road, he sees Zacchaeus in the tree and he points him out. Truth will find you. If you're willing to have any curiosity about the life that God wants to live through you and willing to change anything about your behavior, truth will find you and lock eyes on you. And Jesus said, Zacchaeus, I see you. Come down from that tree. I'm coming. I want to abide in your home today. This caused great consternation among the people because why would this beautiful teacher want to spend time with that man? Jesus had a habit of this. The prostitutes, the tax collectors, the Gentiles, those who were unclean and unwelcome in the sanctified community, Jesus spent time with them, taking the message of hope and deliverance right where it was needed most. So he was in Zacchaeus' house. Now, I don't know about you, but when I've been doing wrong, I expect a little bit of a punishing something or other. Do you know that? Like, somebody's like, because that's where we were typically raised. And you would expect a spiritual teacher in the home of this tax collector to go, it's not what Jesus did. He didn't point out his wrongdoing in any way. Instead, what he said was so interesting. He said, Zacchaeus, you are a son of Abraham. You know what that meant? This man, despised and excluded by his own choices, was being called home. You are still a member of this tribe. You still have a place in our society. You are a son of Abraham. Can you imagine the hurt that he had been carrying, which he was probably assuaging by more stuff? Trying, like so many of us do, trying to get something outside of me to make me feel better. Carbohydrates. Am I preaching against anybody else right now? And Jesus said, I know who you are. And for us, it's not tied to the Abrahamic, the Jewish faith, even though we are children of Abraham as Christians. We too are part of the Abrahamic house of faith. Judaism, Islam, and Christianity all trace our lineage back to this teaching of one God. But it means all of us are children of the universe. You are a daughter of the Most High. Remember who you are. Remember. And there was something transmitted to this man, this broken, suffering man, by this wise and kind and loving teacher. And something changed. And as I said, if you knew better, you do better. You know what Zacchaeus did? He said, this day I will give half of everything I have to the poor. Everyone that I have wronged, I will give them back fourfold what I have taken. I believe he did. Because when you have met the shining Christ light, you are changed. And it's in you. I don't know what's calling you. I don't know what's calling me, but I can feel it. I've been on this path a long time. And I can feel that, and I will tell you, my life is sweet and full and abundant and good. I am so blessed. And as I've been reflecting at the beginning of this year, there's just something. Something's calling me. Something's calling me. A little bit deeper than I ever gone before. Something's calling you. Something is asking for your attention to come home to who you truly are, to leave aside all those practices and relationships and habits that don't support and lift you into your truth. It's time. Something's calling me. A little bit deeper than I ever been before. There's a song my friend Jamie Lula wrote, but I just love this chorus. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. I invite you to sing that with me and just feel what's in your heart. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. It requires your yes, your surrender. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. So I don't know what this means, except that it's good. I know it's good. I want to be better as your leader. I want to be a better partner. I want to be a better steward of the good that God has given me. I want to be a more beneficial presence in the planet and in humanity. I want it. It's calling me, and it's calling you. Howard Thurman says this: there is something in every one of you that waits and listens for the sound of the genuine in yourself. It is the only true guide you will ever have, and if you cannot hear it, you will all of your life spend your days at the end of strings that somebody else has pulled. Your life is waiting for you. A life of such freedom and power and love and glory. Yes, Willard, glory. It's calling to you. Are you willing to say yes to life? And it's not some old idea that you got to give up everything you like to be what God wants you to be. No, God just wants you to be you, fully, freely. Yes, in all your weirdness, be that. Be that, full out. Sing it with me one more time. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. I'm coming, yeah. Something's calling me a little bit deeper than I've ever been before. So you're invited. I invite you to do it here, where you have other people that'll put their arms around you, that'll walk the path with you, that'll remember the truth of who you are when you forget. That's why we have community. We've got spirit groups starting again in a couple weeks. You can join a small group and let people know who you are. Yes, in all your weirdness. We love it. And be who you are for God. If no one has told you today that they love you, I love you. God bless you.
Thank you for watching this message today. I'd like to invite you to join us in person here on campus at Unity of Houston for Sunday morning or Wednesday evening services. If you can't be with us here on our campus, you can still join us live on Facebook or on our website, unityhouston.org, Sunday mornings at 11 a.m. Central.